Hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloye in Lagos. About a week or two ago, the Dubai police, alongside the FBI, raided and arrested a Nigerian by name Raymond Olorunwa Abbas, popularly called Hush Puppy, and some of his associates of a criminal ring. He has been taken to the United States to face the offenses leveled against him. Days ago, the ruling All Progressives Congress APC came out with a statement signed by the Deputy National Spokesperson of the APC, Nsiyekini Nabena. He said, quote, the FCC, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and other sister agencies must investigate money laundering report linking some PDP leaders and financiers to the Dubai-based international criminal ring. He went further to say that the PDP leadership turned Dubai into their strategic meeting place ahead of the 2019 general elections in Nigeria, and Hush Puppy's affinity with the PDP leadership is not mere coincidence. But that statement has since gotten some response, especially from former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and former Senate President Bukola Saraki. The former Senate President said the claims are irresponsible and cheap politics. He said, quote, he has no form of association with the said suspect, and neither does he know him in any way. The former Senate President said the APC leadership, it needs to rein in on Mr. Nabena and compel him to desist from making and circulating such malicious, odious, and offensive claims, end of quote. Perhaps some of the reasons why Mr. Nabena was raising this issue was some of the pictures you've seen with the suspect that was arrested by the Dubai police, and taking some of these pictures that you see there on your screen, which came up on social media, which was said to have been taken in the United Arab Emirates. Well, that conversation between the APC and PDP has birthed yet another conversation about the performance of President Muhammadu Buhari and the way and manner in which things have gone. A very consistent critic of the president, who is a former aide to the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, Mr. Reno Omokri, says the president has made several promises which, according to him, has not been fulfilled. Tonight, we'll be dissecting the president's performance, especially the major agenda of fixing insecurity in Nigeria, and the economy issues, and of course, fighting corruption, which Mr. Omokri says is far from doing so. And of course, we will get some response from the APC. Well, Mr. Reno Omokri, lawyer and author, he joins me now from London. Thank you so much, Mr. Omokri, for your time tonight on the program. Let me begin with you, Mr. Omokri. On a day like this, you raised some very, very strong accusation against this government. First and foremost, on the issues of anti-corruption, you said that corruption is not being fought in this government, rather that corruption is going on in this government. What are your claims, and what do you have evidence of those claims?
Well, I don't have claims. I deal in facts. I don't deal in claims. Now, you talked about Raymond Abbas. Now, let's look at it. Now, our youth in Nigeria, they're actually mirroring what they're seeing with our leaders. General Muhammadu Buhari, on January 31st, 2019, went to Kanu, lifted up the hand of Umar Ganduje, and asked the people of Kanu to vote for him. Now, Umar Ganduje, this was a man caught on video receiving bribes in dollars, stuffing them in his clothes. And then you're raising this man's hands and you're asking the people, the youths, to vote for him. In other words, you're telling them, vote for crime. You can imagine that. Babachir Lawal, the former secretary to the government of the Federation, was caught red-handed with his hand in the kiddie. He was a thief, caught red-handed. And then this man gave an interview to Punch and said that he still visits Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa. As a matter of fact, he was given a role in Muhammadu Buhari's re-election campaign. Nasser Danu, a member of the president's inner cabinet, in a kitchen cabinet, he was arrested November last year at Heathrow Airport in London with a fake passport, with huge sums of money undeclared. He was arrested and then deported to Nigeria. The next thing we saw, pictures of Nasser Danu and Muhammadu Buhari shaking hands. Look, on the eve of the last presidential elections, we saw Bullion Vance going into the home of Bola Tinubu, a leader of the APC. This is in a country that is known for vote buying. Now, Bullion Vance going into the home of a national leader and nothing was done to him. EFCC did not investigate him, he was not arrested, he was not. So what you are seeing is that corruption is so brazen. And Chinua Achebe said in his book, Arrow of God, that when a child is asked to go and steal by his father, he does not go stealthily. He walks boldly and breaks into the door. And that's what you've seen with Abbas or Hush Puppy. He has seen his leaders portray corruption as something that you can vote for, something that can visit you at the presidential villa, somebody that is, you can call somebody your national leader, and yet you have this kind of behavior. And so he is exhibiting what he's seen. That's why he was flaunting his corruption on social media. Look, we have a situation whereby we are facing the worst economic crisis of our national life. Yes, this president budgeted 37 billion naira to renovate the National Assembly, a building that was built in total for 6 billion naira. A president in this midst of this monumental economic crisis budgeted $500 million to renovate NTA. NTA, I spoke to a former director general of NTA, I can name his name if you want me to, and he said NTA is worth $50 million. How can you budget $500 million to renovate a station that is worth $50 million? SABC, South African Broadcasting Corporation, the biggest broadcasting corporation in Africa, is worth only $200 million. Now, just yesterday, SERAP sued this government. It was in the papers. They sued them on Friday, but it came on the papers on yesterday. In 2017, the Auditor General of this government, now this is not an activist, the Auditor General of the Federation came out and said 300 billion naira has either been stolen or misappropriated in Nigeria under Buhari. Now, in 2017, that means he had just been 2 years in office. You can imagine how much has been stolen now. What I'm trying to say is that this administration is not giving our youth a good example. The examples that you're showing, look, 2015, May 29, when former President Goodluck Jonathan handed over to Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria's total debt was 11 trillion. As I speak to you right now, Nigeria's total debt is 28.63 trillion. It is multiplied by 3. Our foreign debt, 2015, was $7 billion. As I speak to you right now, it is $29 billion. And this man says he wants to borrow $22.7 billion more. And what are you doing with the money? You're not building schools. You're not building hospitals. You budgeted 11 billion for Aso Rock Presidential Clinic. That clinic could not treat the chief of staff to the president when he had COVID-19. Where has that money been going?
Mr. Omokri, when you raise the issue of Hush Puppy, and perhaps what birthed this conversation is the allegations or the criticism coming from the APC that some leaders of the PDP are seen in pictures with this man that has since been arrested and taken to the United States. Are you in some way saying that there is a justification for Hush Puppy's alleged behavior or suspected frauds?
Hush Puppy is a criminal. He is facing the law and he should be sent to jail and then the key thrown away. But let's look at the issues. Let's not look at shadows. The picture, Atiku Abubakar was at an event where it was packed full of Nigerians. And one of the people there was this young man. And at that time, nothing was known about the young man's criminality. He was just thought to be an influencer. And he came and took a picture. Atiku Abubakar is probably the most popular Nigerian today. And if a Nigerian comes up to him and says he wants to take a picture, of course he will take a picture with him. Now, compare that to Muhammadu Buhari. Nasser Rudani was photographed with Muhammadu Buhari after he had been exposed by the British as somebody who is a money launderer, somebody who is a fake passport, arrested at Heathrow, deported back to Nigeria. Now, this is after, and then Muhammadu Buhari was photographed with him, taking the picture with him. Babachir Lawal, after he was exposed as a thief, his hand caught in the kitty. General Muhammadu Buhari
in the case of Mr. Babachir Lawal, Mr. Omokri, in the case of Mr. Babachir Lawal, this is a case that is in court. I would like, since you're a lawyer, the use of language because it's a suspect because the case is in court. You can continue, please.
Well, I have a master's degree in law. I schooled in England. I worked in the British Parliament. You're wrong there. It is a proven fact that Babachir Lawal, if you look at the pleadings by the EFCC and if you look at his own response, he has not denied that fact. So it is a proven case that Babachir Lawal is a thief. And I will repeat it, he's a thief. Now, going further, let's talk about Umar Ganduje.
No, but in Nigeria here, perhaps, apologies, Mr. Omokri, in Nigeria here, you're probably practicing law outside of the country. In Nigeria here, what obtains is that you cannot call someone a thief when the case is still in court. It's still been taken up in court. So you cannot, the court has not called him a thief just yet. So the case is in court. That's why I'm advising you, and you're on the national TV.
Okay, not
So
a
I'm
problem.
advising you on the use of language. Those are your words, anyways.
Babaji Lawal, he's going to take me to court, and he will be disgraced if he tries that. But let's go on further. Umar Ganduje was caught on camera, and then you went on the 31st of January 2019, and you held up his hands. Now, are you going to say that because he has not been charged to court, you can go him? So this is hypocrisy of the highest level by the APC. The APC should address General Muhammadu Buhari's romance with corruption. That's what we are talking about. Look at the National Health Insurance Scheme. The man that was there, when Muhammadu Buhari went to London for his treatment, the acting president, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, removed that man. General Muhammadu Buhari came back and reinstated the man. Eventually, after much pressure by people like myself and others, the man was removed from office. Has he been charged? Let me ask you a question, Shehu. The Ikoyi apartment billions, it was investigated 3 years ago. How come Nigerians do not yet still know who owns the Ikoyi apartment billions? The governor of Rivers State, Wike, said that the money is owned by a former governor of Rivers State who happens to be a member of the cabinet of Muhammadu Buhari. Now, we don't know if it's true or not, but that's what he alleges. How come they have done an investigation and they cannot tell Nigerians who owns that money? If that money had been owned by a PDP-linked person or an opposition-linked person, you'd have taken them 2 seconds to say who owned that money. So these are what we are seeing.
Mr. Mokri, let me quickly ask you. If you're talking about corruption under this government, for example, about 871 billion looted funds are said to have been recovered, 407 mansions just in 3 years. For you, you think corruption is not being fought based on some of the facts on the table?
Well, let me just put it here. You said they claimed. Now, that's a claim. Now, if you read the letter that was written first by the former Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, she actually contradicted that and said that the man there, Magu, had been playing to the gallery, that the figures that he said he had collected were not the same as the amount lodged in the central bank. And if you recall, just a week ago, the current Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, had written a letter saying that the man himself, Magu, is corrupt. Now, let's keep that alone. Let's keep Nigeria. Let's look at there is only one body given internationally the authority to adjudicate on who is corrupt and who is not corrupt. That's Transparency International. Now, Transparency International said Nigeria is more corrupt today than at any time under former President Jonathan or former President Yar'Adua or former President Olusegun Obasanjo. As a matter of fact, we made our best improvement on the Corruption Perception Index in 2014 when we moved 12 space forward and we became 136. Now, under Muhammadu Buhari, we went 12 places backward and we went to 148. Now we are back at 144. So even corruption, even the international community is seeing this. So it's not something that I'm making up.
Mr. Mokri, yeah. So if you would rate this government in the last 5 years compared to the Goodluck Jonathan or the PDP government in that same amount of time, how would you rate this government in performance? Because the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, whom you work closely with, spent 5 years. This government has spent 5 years also, the APC government. How would you compare?
I'm going to put it this way. Now, look at this now. In the MTEF, that's the medium-term expenditure framework of the first quarter that was just recently released, it shows that now Nigeria's debt to revenue ratio is 90%. That means we are spending 90% of our revenue on debt servicing. Now, that's to show you the amount of debt that this administration has plunged us to. Now, when you compare this administration with former President Jonathan's government or Yar'Adua's government, yes, there was some corruption there. It's a human government. But the difference between that government and this government is that under Jonathan, there was corruption. In this administration, corruption is official. So you had a situation whereby under Jonathan, there were corrupt officials. But in this administration, corruption was official. Under Jonathan made some mistakes. In this administration, Muhammadu Buhari is himself a mistake. All right,
Mr. Omokri, because of our time, we have to leave it at that. Thank you so much, Mr. Reno Omokri, lawyer and author, a former aide to former President Goodluck Jonathan. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
You're very welcome. God bless you.
Thank you. So let's get some other perspective to this one, perhaps one that is not in agreement to what Mr. Omokri is saying. This time around, let's speak to a member of the APC, a political economist and development expert, Mr. Ayo Yalawa. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you indeed, Mr. Ayo Yalawa, for your time tonight. Let's begin to get your reaction from what Mr. Omokri has said tonight. He's saying that under the Buhari government, that there is corruption, perhaps, and that the corruption is official, but under the government that he worked, that there were mistakes and there were corruption. But how would you react to some of what he has said tonight?
Good evening. Thank you, Sean. Reno is the least person that should be talking about corruption. He said under their government, they were a mistake. They're actually a mistake. Reno is a mistake of a human being. Reno is a man who stole another person's identity. I would have loved to ask him whether he knows who is Mrs. Deborah. She's in America. He stole her son's identity to use the boy's identity to write a fake report about someone. He used the name Wendell Slimming. This is a guy who nobody should bring on national television because he portrays nothing but the bad example that we don't want to ever see again in our country. Reno is somebody who said he wrote a book in somebody's name. He has been collecting money on people's on their behalf. He hasn't remitted 1 naira to those people. Reno is somebody that was taken off even the Jonathan's government and was replaced by Obi Asika because of his kind of character. Reno is the one who just want to talk because he thinks he has something to say. And everybody knows he has nothing to say because by every human definition, Reno is a crook who uses fake name, who steals identity of people, who lies without conscience, who use the name of God to deceive people.
Please, apologies. The same way I invited you on the program
mouth.
is the same way I invited Mr. Omokri. So please, just temper justice with the use of language because he's spoken his mind and he stayed on the issues. Can we stay on the issues so that we can just deal with some of the issues that have been raised tonight?
Yeah, the issues are what we are talking about. You see, he that goes to equity should go with a clean hand. Everything I have said is on record. Reno used a fake name that he stole from somebody. He never denied it himself. He charged Babachi Lawan, and I said Babachi never denied it. He never denied his own too. He uses a cousin's name or a relative's name to lie and deceive people. He wrote a book. He said he was going to give the proceeds to the family of the girl that is in captivity. He never did. So if somebody is going to talk about something that is bad, it is not from Reno. Now I'm talking about comparison between the 5 years of the Jonathan government and the 5 years of Buhari government. The Jonathan government had the second Niger bridge on paper for 5 years. They were showing the world how they will make the paper look beautiful. Buhari has completed the bridge to 55% completion rate as we speak today. The Jonathan government told the world that, oh, they want to bring rail. In fact, under their government, their spokesperson, Doyin Okupe, said they can't buy new rails because we can't afford it. Yet we are selling oil at $140. Today, we barely can reach $40. Yet, this government has bought several coaches, brand new ones. As I speak to you, brand new rail lines have sprung up from Lagos to Ibadan, from Abuja to Kaduna. More are coming between Lagos to Kaduna to Kano. Roads are springing up. A friend of mine who just got transferred to Abuja told me how he came by road, and it was a pleasant surprise because most of the roads are in better shape. So we are looking at the 5 years comparison, and this character came on TV to come and tell us how they made some mistakes. No, they didn't make any mistake. They were a mistake. May that kind of mistake never happen to Nigeria again in Jesus' name. We are having a government today. Nobody can say in human situation there will be no problems, but the problems will be dealt with. The Babachi Lawa case has been shouting and screaming about. The man is in court. But we remember when Stella Odua was charged with something similar by buying bulletproof cars. We know she never went to court. Rather, they gave her a senatorial ticket. Now you are comparing apples with orange, or you are comparing apples with apples. So clearly there will be challenges. We will never say there won't be challenges, but you cannot compare a government that romanticizes criminals with a government that takes people to court. Now, if the court does not decide the case in time, you don't blame the president or the executive. You talk to the judiciary. Now, clearly you can see the difference between
All
giving
right.
a ticket to somebody who has been accused of
Mr. Ayalo, apologies
several
to
crimes.
butt in because we need to take our first break on the program. Please stay with us. I'll allow you to continue on the defense about some of the issues raised by Mr. Omokri. But up next on the program, everyone, a new political movement to save Nigeria is in the works as some eminent Nigerians plan to change the status quo. We find out more on their agenda. We speak with one of the prominent faces or the names on that group. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to the conversation. Let's continue our conversation on the issue of President Muhammadu Buhari's promises and the APC government's performance, especially as the conversation from what Mr. Reno Omokri, who spoke to us earlier, and the response we're getting from an APC member, Mr. Ayo Yalawa, who is also a political economist and development expert. Thank you so much, Mr. Yalawa, for staying with us. Let me allow you to continue your defense and what you were saying. Mr. Omokri raised an issue about how corruption is being fought under this government, about some of the things that are perhaps not seen that has been done, especially the report from Transparency International on Nigeria and the issue of debt profile of the country. How would you respond to some of these issues?
Well, the Transparency International is a perception index. It is not about reality, it's about perception. And when somebody comes on air and starts telling us about perception, you begin to ask, what did your government do that got to the point where today we are getting back 46 houses for one person, 68 billion from one woman alone? Let not even talk about the other one who is hidden somewhere, whether in America or in one of the islands, who has stolen whatever anybody cannot even imagine. So we are not talking about just perception, we're talking about reality. The reality is that monies are being recovered in large number. Houses are being recovered in large number. All these things were not stolen yesterday. They were stolen under the PDP government. And today, recoveries are being made. If we are having problems with the judgment and with getting people confirmed to prison and whatever, that is a judiciary issue. You don't put that on the executive. What the executive can do is recover what it can recover, charge you to court. If the court now decide to waste time, if they can use legality and technicalities to waste people's time, how is that the president's problem? Or how is that even Magu's problem? Magu's job is to take you to court. If the court decide to free a criminal, we can't help them. Because we are all living witnesses to how Nigerian court freed a James Ibori in Nigeria when it was charged with over 120 counts. But he was charged in the UK on just 3 counts, yet he went to jail. Now you begin to look at how dangerously precarious our judiciary is. Now, talking about borrowing and economy, this government has pushed beyond the boundaries. The president will always say it. We have earned less, yet we have done more. And the examples abound and abide everywhere. Until this government came in, we imported almost everything we were eating in this country, including rice, grains, and every other thing. Today, the story has changed. Until this government came in, most of the children that were born in the last 20 years have never seen a railway in their lives. Until this government came to power, we have always had roads, we will fix it, we will do this. Today, we are not saying we will fix it. These roads are being fixed. Rails are being built. Railways and coaches are being brought into the country. You will not get this government to solve all the problem because of the problem they met on ground. But clearly, if you are going to rate over 10, you will give this government 7.5. They have tried extremely, especially looking at the fact that there has been no much money coming in. Crude oil has always been a challenge. We are trying to diversify the economy. These guys came in with something they call Shwopi. Till today, you cannot point to anybody who benefited. We had the Empower. You can point to hundreds and thousands of young people who have benefited. So you cannot solve all problems in one day. But I am telling you, the evidence abound. You can go to the street, you will see them.
Let me get your quick reaction because of the links your party had, alleged on some PDP leaders. And Mr. Mokri, this is his words. He says that Hush Puppy should face the law, but this administration is not giving our youth a good example to follow. And he was making a judgment. He said Hush Puppy is exhibiting what he sees Nigerian leaders doing. How would you react to that? Because he's making a link to those who are
Yeah, Hush
perhaps,
Puppy
according to him, close to the
It's
president.
actually exhibiting what he sees Nigerian leader doing. Because those leaders were with him in Dubai, they were all planning how they were going to hack into a server. That's why they've been shouting server, server, server. Hush Puppy was clearly one of them. He's exhibiting exactly the trait of those leaders that he was dealing with. So Reno was right. He said Hush Puppy is an example of their own leaders. And truly, he was an example of their leaders. That is why they whine and dine. He said just pictures. He's lying, you know. There are videos here I could show you. Some are on the social media where they had dinners. These guys had full compliment of everything with this guy. They wanted to work with him. In fact, I can show you examples online where he was clearly campaigning for the PDP. Truly, Hush Puppy is an example of the kind of leadership that the PDP bequeathed to Nigeria, unfortunately so. We are hoping that we can clear this over the time, but Hush Puppy was an example of what the leadership of PDP was in the last 16 years. And an example of steal everything you can see in sight, leave nothing behind. Destroy everything you can destroy, leave nothing behind. Let the poor fend for themselves, let the poor die. This government came in, they are giving money to the poorest of the poor, they are doing Empower, they are doing trade money, they are doing Jeep money, and you still say they have not tried. If the people that were before them have done half of what this Buhari government is doing, today the problem will not be as bad as it were. The rot is so deep, you will be shocked. You cannot solve this problem in 5 years. They have destroyed this country in 16 years. You won't finish the cleaning in 5 years. If you bring a bulldozer to this building today, in 30 minutes, this building will no longer be standing. But you cannot build this building in 1 year. So that is what these guys have done. They have destroyed Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari is rebuilding Nigeria, and we pray that he will continue and then he will complete what God has given him as an assignment so that whoever takes over from him will continue to build on. We've never had anything to build on as a country. We've always had destructive element, locust, but we pray that the year of the locust is past us. Now we're going to have harvest. That is why Nigeria can feed themselves. That is why, despite the pandemic, imagine if these guys were in power with this pandemic where the whole world was shut down. We would have died of hunger. We would have been another Venezuela. But because President Buhari was able to use the small resources he had to make sure that farmers can develop and build, and make available enough food for Nigerians.
Mr. Oyalo.
We are still able to eat, despite the fact that things are tough all over the world. We are not begging. We're not carrying our begging bowl to the world to ask for aid and to ask for food that Nigerians can eat. So
we need to leave the conversation at that, Mr. Oyalo.
They will not get there in 1 day,
right,
but the road is already shown that they are going somewhere.
Mr. Oyalo, member of the APC and a political economist and development expert, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Let's switch to yet another conversation. A few days ago, over 30 prominent Nigerian activists, academics, and other professionals came up with a new political movement ahead of the 2023 general elections. The movement, called National Consultative Front, was made public in a communique they released. The group reportedly had a month-long nationwide consultation and virtual meetings. Some members of the group, including Professor Patu Tomi, former deputy governor of the Central Bank, Obadiah Melafia, Abubakar Umar, Obi Ezekwesili, Yaba Gisani, Inko Toyo, Isa Aremu, Chidi Odinkalu, and Shehu Sani. Although some of those mentioned in the group in that communique had since said they know nothing about it. But let's speak to one of the prominent names in that group as a foremost Nigerian political economist and former presidential candidate. Professor Patu Tomi joins us on the program tonight. Thank you so much, Prof. I guess you are one of those who are in the know, and because we've heard Mr. Olusegun Agbakoba and Mr. Femi Falana, who have since said they are not, they don't have knowledge of the plans and the agenda of the group. Do you have, and what does the group stand for?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to clarify a few things. Sometimes there's a tendency perceptions to run away from the reality. The reality is there are several groups of Nigerians who have been interrogation.
We're having difficulty hearing because of the network. Hearing Professor Pato told me. We hope that we will be able to resolve the network issues. But there is yet another issue that we'll be taking on tonight, and it's about the issue in Kogi State, where the dust seems not to have settled over the governorship election. Yesterday, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja dismissed the appeals challenging the election of Mr. Yahaya Bello as the governor of the state. A five-man panel of judges dismissed the appeals, but it appears some of those involved in the matter are not happy. One of them is the governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Mrs. Natasha Akpoti. Well, let me go to our Abuja studio now, where my guests are standing by. Ms. Natasha Akpoti. She is the Social Democratic Party governorship candidate in Kogi State, and as well as we have a lawyer who perhaps will be speaking in defense of what the court has said and upholding the election of Mr. Yahaya Bello as the governor of Kogi State. Both of them, Dr. Dakpo Otitoju is a lawyer, and Ms. Natasha Akpoti. Thank you so much, Ms. Natasha Akpoti, for your time tonight. It does look like you're not happy with the judgment. What exactly is your grievance about the judgment of the appeal court?
Good evening, Shehu, and thanks for having me again. Indeed, you're right. I am extremely dissatisfied with the outcome of the proceedings yesterday at the Court of Appeal. That is just a reflection of what happened and what transpired at the tribunal. But let me say, I and my stakeholders put forward very, very strong technical grounds, which actually ought to have cancelled the election and called for a complete should I say, a rerun election. But to my surprise, the petitions have been dismissed in a very funny way. I'd like to say that I relied upon Section 138, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, which stipulates 6 grounds upon which a petition can be presented. I particularly relied on subsection A and B. A means that Yahaya Bello is not qualified to be a candidate, being that his deputy, Edward Onoja, presently his deputy, who was his running mate then, presented forged birth certificates. And while we were at the tribunal, these certificates were dismissed. The tribunal refused to accept that as we tendered. But to our own advantage, I'd like to say, the appeal court yesterday ruled the dismissal of that certificate by the tribunal court wrongly. So that means that the appeal court actually said that the tribunal was wrong not to have accepted the fact that Edward Onoja, that's Yahaya Bello's deputy, had presented forged certificates to INEC. But
sorry, if I may ask, when you, sorry, apologies, Ms. Akpoti, when you say forged certificate, how does that help your cause? Because what you went to court over is the issue of irregularities in the election. What is this about the certificate, and which of the certificates are you talking about?
We actually went on 2 grounds. That's what I'm saying. Section 138, subsection 1 stipulates 6 of the Electoral Act, stipulates 6 grounds upon which a petition can be presented. A is that the candidate itself, himself or herself, is not qualified ab initio. And that is why I said Edward Onoja was not qualified, and that his disqualification robs off Bello because it's a joint ticket. And you're asking me which certificate did he present. It would interest the good public to know that in the course of Edward Onoja's profession, career in the banking sector, he declared 1975 as his age. But when he filled his form CF001 at NINEC, that which made him a candidate, he put his age, he put forth a forged certificate declaring his age as that which he was born in 1974. So then how do we say that the gentleman with a career record, a GT Bank and all other, which also has his academic certificates, born in 1975, and that's which made him a governor, a deputy governor. He was born in 1974. So I went to the tribunal on 2 grounds: the gross malpractices and the fact that Yahaya Bello and his deputy are not qualified as candidates. But let me tell you this, while the court stated that the fact that I had the right to present, that the tribunal ought not to have dismissed the forged certificates, but that was not enough grounds, because the Constitution, the Nigerian Constitution, in section 182, subsection 1J, states that the forged certificate is only academic certificates and not birth certificates. So then I want to ask the judges, I'd like to ask the judges, and I would like the good Nigerian public to reason with me, what kind of certificate is the Nigerian Constitution talking about? Because it was quite generic, like any candidate who presents a forged certificate will be disqualified. And we have seen members of various administrative levels who had to leave office because their NYC certificates were forged or other certificates were forged. Then why is the Court of Appeal telling me that an irregularity, that's a forged birth certificate, does not amount to a certificate? Now, I am a lawyer, and I believe it's the same law school that all these judges went to. We were taught by the same books and doctrines. And I'd like everyone to know that whenever there's an ambiguity in certain words, which means whenever 2 or more meanings are tied to a particular word, the literal rule applies. What is the literal rule? That means everyone is going to go back to the basic, ordinary, plain meaning of that word, certificate. And everybody can open the dictionary and see, what does a certificate mean? It simply means a legal document that specifies the identity of an individual. It can be a birth certificate. It can be a death certificate, health certificate, and academic certificate. So it's very wrong for the judges of the appeal court to narrow down that section, which I have here in the Constitution, 182 subsection 1, to mean the certificate is only referring to academic certificate. No. If Edwin Onoja had presented his birth certificate as that which proved his identity as a Nigerian, which is very important, is also a criteria to be a candidate. If that same birth certificate proves that it's over the age of 35, then that birth certificate actually makes part of the vital documentations that ought to have been proven beyond reasonable doubt.
Mr. Akwoti, another part of...
that's why one of the reasons why I said I do not agree and I'm not satisfied. They are wrong.
All right. So let me ask you, because the court also said that you were not able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that there were irregularities in that election. Where are you going after now? Are you going, because Supreme Court is the last stage, are you going to the Supreme Court?
I would... First, I just explained to you the first ground which we went on appeal for. The second ground is the gross irregularity, which is section 38, subsection B. It would interest you to note, and with good support you and the Nigerian public gave, whereby we were able to have the disqualification of my candidacy turned around, which was just a week before the election. I didn't have time to campaign. And it would interest everyone to know that SDP was not on the result sheet. I have the result sheets here with me. Kogi State has 2,458 polling units. 2,458 polling units. And in 989 polling units, SDP had no votes. Now, the other 1,544 polling units or so, haven't done the math on that yet, it tells you that those votes that were recorded for SDP were done with charcoal, crayon, and pencils. Some of them were done haphazardly that did not even reflect the votes that I scored. Now, Section 68 of the Electoral Act enforces INEC and all the polling unit officers to record every vote. Even if I scored 0 or 1 or 1,000, record that vote for me. But in 989 polling units, SDP had no votes recorded whatsoever, no votes. I have a few of them here with
Ms. Akwoti, apologies please to butting, but we need to go on a break now. Up next, when we come back from this break, we look further into what has become a fight-to-finish race and tussle for the Kogi governorship seat. We hear more and other perspective, especially from the APC angle and the defense. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to the conversation. We have been talking about the Kogi governorship tussle. Ms. Natasha Akpoti, she was the SDP governorship candidate at that election, which the appeal court on Saturday upheld the election of Mr. Yaya Bello. Let's get back to our Abuja studio. But this time around, let me allow the lawyer, Mr. Dakpo Otitoju, Dr. Dakpo Otitoju, let me bring him into the conversation. Dr. Otitoju, what are your reactions to what Ms. Akpoti has said tonight about the judgment of the appeal court?
Well, good evening. The judgment of the Court of Appeal yesterday, especially on the one for SDP, was clearly a judgment that has, one, the judgment on the issue of the deputy governor, that's Edward Onoja. Let me clear the air. The Court of Appeal said that it was wrong for the tribunal to have struck out the name of Edward Onoja. It is not that the Court of Appeal said that Edward Onoja have a forged certificate. So that I needed to clear the air. The Court of Appeal said it was wrong for Edward Onoja's name to have been struck out from the petition. And that was what they said, that now they cannot overrule the decision of the tribunal simply because 180 days have expired. But it is not that they got a finding that Edward Onoja have a forged certificate. Now, having said that, the clear position of the law as to how you prove issues of qualification under Section 138(1) of the Electoral Act is clear. We have legions of decisions of Supreme Court on issues like this. Now, when when SDP's petition was to be dealt with, they have issues as regards they made issues in their petition as regards Edward Onoja having been dismissed from his previous employment. That was their allegation in the petition. And they had opportunity to subpoena a witness to testify and bring documents. That witness did not bring document as relates to what was contained in the subpoena. And you cannot come and tender a document that was not contained in the subpoena for you to bring to court. So he brought a different document, which is declaration of age. That is not contained in the petition, in the subpoena issued to him. So your facts, as you allege under your grounds in your petition, matters a lot. And especially when it comes to subpoena, you cannot bring a document that you did not indicate in your subpoena and then want the court to admit it. It will not be acceptable. And that is our own, that is the jurisprudence. So
what about the grounds, Dr. Otitoju? What about the grounds on the fact that she raised that there were loads, because that's on one hand. Also, the issue of the fact that a name was omitted on the result sheet.
Now, you see, the Court of Appeal will only be concentrating on what came before it. The Court of Appeal, in their wisdom, decided issues raised before it by SDP. SDP had 5 issues. Issue 5 was dismissed because it was formulated from incompetent grounds. Issue 2, the number 1 to 4 was decided. The first issue 1 was decided in their favor. The 2 issue was decided partly. Issue 3 and 4 was dismissed. And that dismissed and terminated the petition.
So,
Because the
Dr.
issue
Otitoju,
that,
are you
Edward
saying
Onoja,
the SDP going forward to the Supreme Court in this matter? Because it does look like Ms. Akpoti has some assurances that there were a lot of irregularities and she has a lot of problem with the way and manner the judgment came. Do you think that there is a chance at the Supreme Court?
Well, you see, as a lawyer, we need to be careful what we say. And then that is exactly what I will say here. The decision of the Court of Appeal is apt. The way I saw the decision, it is the problem of proof. That is the problem. The proof at the tribunal. The tribunal, when SDP was proving his case at the tribunal, brought was a witness, the chairman of SDP, to tender documents. And under cross-examination, it was asked, how did you visit all these polling units? He said he visited all, he was monitoring all the polling units through electronics. And that is hearsay. It's hearsay evidence. You were not opportune to visit these polling units. And various other witnesses were not there.
All right, Ms. Akpoti, because we are out of time, let me get back to Ms. Akpoti on this matter. Ms. Akpoti, because we're out of time, what chance do you have right now? You have the option of approaching to the Supreme Court. From what Dr. Otitoju said, do you really have a chance at the Supreme Court?
I do believe I have a chance at the Supreme Court, because the reason why the appeal ruled against me with regards to the fact that SDP was not on the result sheet is they said that I needed to have brought the polling unit officers of all the 989 polling units, the polling unit agents. But let me say this, in the recently concluded case against Hope Uzodimma and Ihedioha, the Apex Court, which is Supreme Court, actually stated that once you have, don't tell me, it's actually set a precedent, and please, while you were speaking, let me respond. Sir, in Hope Uzodimma against Ihedioha, the Supreme Court actually said that once anyone who brings forth the polling unit result sheet, which is the foundation of all elections, that's enough. And we brought forth all the polling units result sheets of all the polling units, especially 989 polling units that would not have any votes recorded. And INEC did not object that these documents were not theirs. So what other evidence? Beside that, we brought over 100 witnesses at the tribunal. We brought witnesses. And we were able, but beyond the witnesses
Ms. Akpoti, are you insinuating foul play in some of these things? Just quickly before we go. Are you insinuating a foul play? Because it does look like the language in which, a manner in which you were saying this.
There was a foul play, and I do hope that the Supreme Court will amend that. There was foul play there, sir. There was foul play.
Dr. Otitoju, I need you to react in 20 seconds, please. Dr. Otitoju.
Yes. Honestly, the decision of Uzodimma and this case, they are totally different cases. In Uzodimma's case, he was saying, my results were not collated. In this case, you are talking of irregularity. You are talking, so there are two different decisions. The Supreme Court decision and this decision are two divergent, they can never meet, two parallel lines that can never meet.
So we need to leave it at that, but I must sincerely thank Ms. Natasha Akpoti and Dr. Otitoju for their thoughts, and we see what happens in the coming days. Thank you so much. Before we go, we couldn't get Professor Patutomi quite well on the Skype, but let's see if we can hear him on telephone, and perhaps in the few seconds we have left on the program, get Prof to tell us the agenda of this group, because this group says they want to save Nigeria. Prof, if you can hear me, what is the agenda of the NCF to create a political party, or in what way do you hope to save Nigeria?
So I think the first problem is that Nigerians are often given the impression that anytime you want to fix Nigeria, that it's about creating a political party. Now, that is where the confusion starts, and then people start saying, oh, I was not consulted about a political party or the other. I am personally involved in 4 different major groups looking at this business of reform to save Nigeria. There is no question that our democracy is broken. It is not working. Anybody who says it's working should tell me why we are where we are in the world. It's just about everything, the bottom of anything. Take any global indicator and look at where Nigeria is. Poverty capital of the world, strategic relevance, anything. So that is not in dispute. We cannot dispute that. The numbers and statistics say so. How do you fix it? Democracies are always work in progress. Even European and American democracies. In the last year or two, there have been books written. The head of the Department of Political Science or Politics at Cambridge has written a book, How Democracy Ends. David Runciman. From out of Harvard, Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt have written their own to see how democracies die, and so on and so forth. So democracies are always work in progress. Ours has not worked, period.
Okay. Prof, we're definitely out of time, but I wish that we had that time to speak. The Skype really messed up. But we hope that we might be able to sit down and talk about these plans. Professor Pat Utomi, a political economist and a former presidential candidate, thank you indeed for those few seconds that you had with us. Well, that's our show, and that's how we'll leave it, everyone, tonight. I'm Sean Kimaloe. Bye-bye.